Joining me now is Andy Mock. He's a senior research fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Great to see you in this new year.
Great to be with you today.
Well, Andy, as we heard, Chinese brand BYD beat Tesla in 2022. Walk us through some of the reasons why.
Well, this is a very interesting development, and I think on the one hand, it's apples and oranges, and there's quite a bit to unpack here. So let me go through it very, very briefly. So at the end of the day, absolute unit numbers do matter because ultimately it's about getting vehicles to consumers. So that clearly is important. But on the other hand, it really is like comparing apples and oranges in that BYD offers two kinds of new energy vehicles, what are called plug-in hybrid electric vehicles that have both an internal combustion engine component as well as a battery. And they do sell pure electric vehicles. That's usually referred to as a BEV, or a battery electric vehicle. Now, Tesla only sells BEVs. So in this way, it's a little bit of an unfair comparison. But on the other hand, again, at the end of the day, it's about consumers and businesses transitioning to a more sustainable form of transportation. So I think this is important. And to end on a little bit of a lighter note, I compare this a little bit to the, in the United States, the Netflix HBO competition, in that on the one hand, Netflix was trying to become HBO more quickly than HBO could become Netflix. And we see this in the BYD Tesla competition, in that BYD started with batteries, one of the most important components for electric vehicles, and then moved downstream, just like an Intel that makes chips would start selling computers, whereas Tesla always made cars, but then was looking to control more of the supply chain by moving backwards. So there really is a lot going on here. It's a fascinating area of the business world.
And that is a perfect analogy. Andy, how would you describe the popularity of Chinese EVs domestic and internationally? We know that BYD, for example, is working to expand across the world. What would be the lure for foreign buyers?
Well, for foreign buyers all around the world, there is a pull demand factor in that the world, from the UN to many national governments to cities, are pushing very hard to move towards more sustainable transportation. And electric vehicles are playing a big part in that. So that's creating demand. On the supply side, China, especially in the EV market, is ferociously competitive. And what this means is that if a company can survive and thrive in the Chinese market, it is well positioned to do well globally in terms of cost, in terms of product features, in terms of distribution and service. So I think this is one reason we're seeing not just BYD, but other Chinese companies like NIO, like XPeng, really being pulled into foreign markets all around the world, but also pushing very hard as well, because these companies are businesses. They're looking to grow and be profitable as quickly as possible. So I think we're really seeing this confluence of demand pull and supply push for these Chinese EV makers going global.
You've mentioned NIO and XPeng, some names that have certainly been out there for quite some time now. Talk to us about some of your favorite EV car makers on your list. Who should we be watching for here?
Well, I think, all of them are worth watching. Clearly, a company like BYD that started with one of the most important components, the battery, from a business perspective, I think is certainly worth paying attention to, given also its backing by Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. Certainly worth keeping an eye on in terms of their strategy as well. Tesla, of course, is one of the pioneers. Elon Musk is, of course, seen as a visionary entrepreneur, so certainly worth keeping an eye on there, but coming under increasing competitive pressure. And then there are the homegrown entrepreneurs like the X-Punks, which is really, I think, such a classic startup success story. Someone with an idea that turned it into reality and now is really having a shot at global success. So I think there's a lot of companies to watch.
Exciting times ahead. Andy Mock, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us from Beijing.
Thank you for having me.